Welcome back to my channel. It is time for more scrap busting. Scrap tech. Scrap-tastic. Scrap. Anyway. In a previous video, I had made a whole bunch of my own custom sticky tapes using offcuts from sticker paper when I print downloaded printable kits online, because I have all of these like margins and then space around ephemera and stuff, and I just usually end up with a ton of these offcuts, and I do have a lot of them. Some of them got some like interesting splatters on them or other things from stuff I was trying out, and a lot of them are really small. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't think I'm using the rest of these. It took me, I'm gonna say 2 to 3 hours to just peel the backs off and make these 2 boards. It was a great way to use up the extra sticker paper bits without necessarily having to stamp on them, because a lot of them are so small that like there's just not a lot of stamping to do. Not a lot I'm gonna get out of them. But I thought it'd be fun to just sort of stick them all on here and make sort of an abstract kind of a masterboard situation, decorate things up, and see if I couldn't get a few journaling cards or tags or something out of it. So I'm gonna say goodbye to these. As much as I love to use every scrap of everything and all the junk, and I really do, it's also important to know when to let go. So the thing I've run into when I make any sort of masterboard, whether I'm gluing stuff or in this case the sticker paper I have is pretty good in terms of adhesion, so I'm not too worried about stuff necessarily peeling up on its own. But I find that anytime I have a tag with a bunch of bits stuck on, sometimes it can be hard to, you know, put that in a pocket and remove it, and like, if I cut this up, there are just all of these little edges for things to catch on. And sure, some of that's gonna happen when you decorate the tag. That's just gonna add even more. So I thought one of the things I might try and do is give it a little bit of smoothness and some extra interest, and play around with tissue paper, some matte medium. Where's my matte medium? Here it is. And just see if maybe I could kind of bring all of this together. So right now my thought process is get this all adhered and then maybe do some additional like stamping and inking and stuff, and see if I can't get a really cool layered piece. At the end of the day, if I really like the way it looks, but it's just like some of the other masterboards I've made, a little bit too thick and chunky or just not very practical to use, I can always scan it in my computer and turn it into a digital printable sort of a thing. Because frankly, like, this could be manipulated in Photoshop or in Canva in some interesting ways, and maybe be used to make something really cool. So it doesn't necessarily have to be that I use this specific bits of paper in a journal. Maybe I'll just end up using it to create some cool digitals. So what I've got here is a silicone, I think they're normally called paint shapers. It's basically a silicone paintbrush that just has this tapered flat spot instead of bristles. It is fabulous for spreading stuff around, like matte medium, gesso, paint, really anything. And the best part is cleanup is super easy, and this stuff, when it dries, it'll just peel right off. I I still use paintbrushes for things like matte medium and gesso, but not unless I'm really looking to get like brush marks, brush texture, stuff like that. Most of the time I use these so I can save my brushes, and because things like gesso in particular can be really hard on brushes. And I also can push things down a little bit more so I can get some more, I don't know, get out bubbles and things like that more easily. So, a little bit there, but I think that's fine. The matte medium spreading over this stuff should also help continue to get it nicely adhered. So even if there's a part where the tissue paper doesn't cover, as long as the matte medium goes over it, I think it's still going to help me accomplish something similar. So if you didn't have tissue paper or didn't want to use tissue paper, you could just go over it with some matte medium. This is just Liquitex liquid matte medium, fluid matte medium. I use it all the time. I already, in less than a year, I went through a 32-ounce bottle of it. And I had more than just that because I had previously had a 8-ounce bottle of it, and then I tried another brand and ran through that. And so I just bought a 64-ounce bottle of it, or it's actually a tub. I use it a lot. I use it for, particularly for stuff like this, collaging. I really love it for anytime I'm using tissue or tissue type papers, which I do a lot in my art. I like to paint those tissue papers or print on them from the jelly plate, and then I do a lot of collage with them. So I use this stuff all the time. I know Tim Holtz has a collage medium. I suspect it's similar. I also use gel medium, which is thicker, but I usually use that for heavier papers and just use the fluid medium for something like this where I'm just getting that tissue paper added on top. So I'm excited because I worked on a couple of videos today. This is not the only one I did. I did the one where I made those decorated tapes. I did one where I made stamps using some foam scraps, adhesive foam scraps. I made the first part of this video and then deleted it because it was boring and rambling and not very interesting, and then I just decided it wasn't all that hard to show you how an old manila folder has a whole bunch of sticker paper scraps stuck all over it. Boom, that's the video. So that was going to be part one, and then I just decided, I don't really love this anyway. Let's just cut it and start with the more interesting stuff anyway. But when I am done with this, cat hair. Cat hair ends up in most of my work. That's not an exaggeration. If you've watched more than this video, there's a good chance you have seen my cat Sassy, Sasquatch, because she spends most of her time in my art room and loves to stop me in the middle of what I'm doing and get some attention throughout the day. So there's always cat hair. I have 3 cats. She's not the only one. She's just the one you all see the most. So yeah, after this video, I am probably going to record another haul video, flea market haul video. I never intended for this to become a like haul challenge or channel, a haul channel, or be all that product oriented. I think mostly because that's not usually what I like to watch. I like to watch videos like this where someone's just sitting and making stuff and I feel like I'm hanging out with them. And that's because I don't have friends who are into art. So that's my replacement for having crafty friends. But I've realized that because I don't have, you know, real life in-person friends who are really into art or journaling or in some cases into like vintage stuff, or a lot of the time, even if I have a friend who's into vintage stuff, they're not into the same vintage stuff because they're not going to use it the way I am. And now the whole video is kind of like an opportunity to share something really cool that I found with people that hopefully will appreciate it. And because I think of it that way, it's less about like buying things. It's really just more about, for me, the most exciting part about going to the flea markets is seeing what cool stuff I can find. So anyway, I went to the flea markets this week, just a couple. I really did not spend a lot of time. And I was in search of cool rusty stuff because I want to do some rust dyeing. And so I wanted to, I know that there's a couple booths at the markets that I go to most often that I usually bypass because mostly all they have is old rusty stuff. And it's not really a lot of times stuff that I would use in art or journals. Oop, I got a little, this happens from time to time, whether you use a paint shaper or paintbrush, just manage to tear a little bit of the tissue off. I don't even know exactly where it came from. That's fine with me. I like a messy, distressed look anyway. But yeah, I really hit it big this time. I got the rusty stuff I was looking for. Some stuff that I think will make some really cool marks on paper. And then I also got a really cool vintage tin. I got some cool, a cool glass bowl, which I'm probably not necessarily going to show. It's not something that I use for junk journaling. Every so often though, I find something cool for my house. So that bowl is not in this room. I found an awesome geography book from the late 1800s that is like so messy and falling apart and scribbled in, and it just made me really happy and excited. And I stumbled across the biggest box of what appears to mostly just be like sewing trims and ribbons and stuff. I am not kidding about the size of this box. It was marked $10. At first when I saw the box, I thought it was a box that individually marked things were in because it was so massive. And I picked up a couple and I was like, what are these priced at? Because I'd like pay $1 for this. I'd pay $1 for this. And so I'm like trying to figure out how much these trims cost. And am I going to have to go up and ask the lady at the register if she can help me figure out what the price is? And then I noticed the tag attached to the box. And I'm like, oh, you have to buy the whole box? It's going to be like $40 or something because this thing is huge. And it was 10, and I just grabbed it and ran up to the front and was like, put this on hold. I'll be back when I'm done shopping the other booths. And the woman who was checking me out laughed when she saw it. She's like, how is this $10? And then she looked at the ticket and she was like, oh, this booth is run by a man. He probably has no idea what this is worth. Anyway, I have not gone through the box. I've seen enough of like what's on top and whatnot, but I just figured we could essentially unbox it together. So if this intrigues you at all, that video will be posting on my channel later. So this is now a good time to subscribe and hit the bell so that you get notified and you won't miss the flea market haul with the crazy box of ribbons and trims and laces and stuff. And yeah, so I'm gonna pull all the stuff out and really dig in and see what's in there. It doesn't look like much of it's super high end, but you know, a lot of the stuff we use in art and junk journals and art journals, what have you, like that stuff isn't super high end either. That's not really the point. You know, I use some nice art products when I make my work, whether it's a junk journal or a painting. And that's because, you know, nice paint does things that cheaper paint won't do, right? But I don't use it because I have to use the best. It's just that I know what that'll give me. But I have a hoard of craft paints in addition to, you know, my collection of artist grade paints, and I use them honestly somewhat interchangeably. It kind of depends on what I'm trying to accomplish. Like a lot of my jelly plate printing I do with cheaper paint, because like Liquitex Basics and some craft paints, they just stick better. So I actually tend to have more predictable results from them. But then sometimes I want to add, you know, the kind of luminosity that like I can only get from Nova Super Pearl Gold, or, you know, I want to get that like vibrant, lively, rusty color from Golden's Quin Magenta. And if you're someone who does a lot of painting with acrylic paint, then you know, those may already be ones you're familiar with, because I know several artists that I like to watch use them in their work as well. And so I will use those, but I use them alongside stuff from like deco art that cost $1 for a bottle at Michael's. And I have no problem with it. And really, again, it just kind of depends on what you're trying to accomplish. Like, I can't just go buy a rusty orange craft paint and get the same effect that I'm going to get from Golden's Quin Gold. It used to be quinacridone nickel azo gold, which they can't do anymore. So now I think it's just quinacridone gold, if I remember correctly. But yeah, like that paint is legendary for a reason. It can kind of, you know, only it can really do what it does. So yeah, I use that. But again, I use a ton of Liquitex Basics, and Amsterdam is great, you know, and they're good paints. Even if they're not as pricey as, you know, Golden acrylics are. Yeah. There's one too many cat hair that time. Felt a little too prominently featured. Most of the way done with the tissue papering. See, you don't want to have had to sit through me starting the process of laying down all of those stickers and then me adding on the tissue paper. I think that's a clump of tissue paper that came up. So now's the fun bit. So yeah, I've been doing a lot of component making, a lot of playing with scraps, and just generally prepping stuff that I can use. That's just the mood, the space, the headspace I've been in. And I know from past work how much of a benefit it is when I have things started, so that when I'm in the mood to work on something on a grander sort of scale, that everything's essentially ready for me to do so. And that is part of what's been going on, especially in journal land for me. I will say some of it I think is just I haven't had a whole lot of like emotional, mental health bandwidth to want to work on a larger scale, more finicky, more planned sort of a project. So being able to just sit down and like cut and glue paper and not really think about much else has been really good for me. So we've got this one is nice and covered now. All right, this is still a little bit wet, so I'm gonna go ahead and I do have a heat gun. I really don't like using it unless I need to, like unless I'm embossing stuff or something like that. Like it just, I like to let stuff dry naturally so that instead of spending time holding a gun over it, warming it up, I can switch gears and work on something else while it dries, and then, you know, use that time more effectively, in my opinion. So I'll let this dry and then I'll come back and we can maybe play around with it a bit more. Although honestly, I'm not sure I want to. I'll come back when it's dry. We'll decide if we're just gonna cut it up as is or do more stuff to it. See you soon. And we're back. And stuff has probably moved around on the desk because I spent a while playing around. I made more of these stamped sticker paper sheets. I played with some of the shiny sticker paper sheets. Not loving this as much, although when I pull them up individually, they're a little bit better. I don't know. We'll see. It's not speaking to me as much. I may have to go a different route with the rest of the shiny clear sticker paper. But what I've got out right now is my VersaFine Claire Sand Dune. I already did one. Maybe actually hard to see because it's very faint. But it's just adding some additional depth to this board. It's giving it some texture and some life. And so, yeah, part of me was like, I think the part of me that's tired because it is nighttime and I have been low energy today. So there's a tiny bit of me that's like, just stop and cut it up and call it good and end the video. Like, I'm not sure I'm going to have the energy to do my haul video until tomorrow. So I wanted, you know, all of a sudden I was like, I just want it over with. But the truth is, I also really think it will benefit from a layer of this kind of stamping. It's one of my favorite things to do, again, because it just adds depth and interest that's really, it's one of those things that you don't notice is there, but it really does contribute overall to the effect that you get. So I'm trying to just layer stuff in so that once these are all, you know, this page is all cut up into tags and cards and stuff, it's just got a lot of interest. I feel like I'm repeating my words, but I really don't know what else to say to describe what I think this gives me. So yeah. All right, so I love these stamps. I think I'm gonna let's do some of my splatter stamps because they make me happy. Let's do this round splat. Again, I think those are off of maybe Amazon. You can find all kinds of like stamps with rings and splats and stuff. They are quite delightful to play with. There's a reason that they are so popular, and that you can find them all over. So, although frankly, I think if you have stamps at all, just use what you've got, because especially if you're using a lighter colored ink where stuff is going to kind of fade into the background, like have no reason to need a very specific stamp, because the point is not to see the stamped image. The point is just for it to add some dimension. So all right, I'm gonna do this guy now. Add him. I don't know why it's a him. I just feel like anthropomorphizing my stamps today. Sure, why not? I think that's the sleepiness talking. Yeah, I have a feeling this is where we've entered wrap it up girl territory. I may actually finish this video tomorrow and show you the finished result after all of the stamping and cutting is done, because you don't need to watch me stamp on stamp on stamp on stamp to get a sense of what I'm doing here. And I'm going to do the exact same thing I've been doing in all of my videos recently. Same stamp, different color. Again, just kind of, it's a good thing in terms of composition, right? Pattern, repetition. So I like that. I don't know that it's not something that you'd probably pick up on consciously, especially since these are all going to be cut up anyhow. But it makes my brain happy in the process, just from a compositional standpoint. So that's enough of a reason for me. And this is just fun. Like, I actually didn't think I was gonna like this board after having spent 3 hours on it, which happens. You know, you try something artistically and then you realize that did not do what I wanted. And sometimes you use an expensive bit of paint or paper or a lot of time, and that can be discouraging. But the truth is, it's just how you learn whether you're gonna like something. And I like what this is doing here. You know, I've got some like purple splatter in there. I think I'm gonna pick that up. Let me grab my purple Villainous Potion, and again, we'll use the same stamp. But now, oh, are you okay, Sessa? Oh, poor little kitty cat slipped and made a mess and a noise. Oh, now she's over under my desk, scratching up my little stool, feeling her feelings, which is a very reasonable response to this. Luckily, she does not know that's on camera, because she is not aware of things like filming and people seeing stuff. So, not entirely sure what she slipped on, but man, it did. She was just walking around. Something slid. It all went crazy. So, got this lovely little guy. Again, I don't know why it's a he. But I just love the purple and brown is basically the color story we started with because of the sticker papers I used. So now I'm gonna lean into that, and yeah, it's almost energizing me. Probably not enough. I really am tired, I realized. But it really has energized me. So at a minimum, I think I am too tired to continue filming for the day. At a maximum, I may be done with craft arting until tomorrow. But this is turning out interesting. So I will return again for you. It'll just be, you know, a moment. I love how I'm putting my stuff away, cleaning up while I'm talking to you. I will stop doing that. I will return and show you more of how all of this turns out when I have more time and more energy to do so. See you again in a moment. All right, we are back. I did more stamping, largely just text stamps, the type of stamp where you really can't read the words, but it looks like text. A couple of those, in the same colors. And I didn't put any foreground stamping where, you know, with some of them I was using darker colors that would come to the foreground, and those would be the shapes and lines you would notice most. I wanted it to blend as much as possible because these are going to be bases for tags, journaling cards, etc. Excuse me. So I'm going to cut this up to show you how it'll look once it's cut up and turned into tags and stuff. I, like many other people I've seen on YouTube and whatnot, I like to cut this, I'm actually going to flip this around for reasons. I like to cut this upside down because I don't want to get bogged down in making decisions about where to make a cut, where to start something off, etc. I really just want to cut and then see what I get. I think things usually look best that way. Okay, I'm not gonna... small spaces, big tools, you get it. I am trying to, oh, I wanted to pull it this way anyway, never mind. I want to say, I'm trying to make more standardized sizes of some of my like tags and stuff. So I know one size I've been using is 6 1/4 by 3 1/4. I had another size written down somewhere, but it has left me. So let's just do, yeah, 3 1/4. Let's put it up where, you know, the inch measurements are. 3 1/4 inches. All right, there's that. And do I have 6 1/4 here? I do. So we're gonna cut it like 6 1/4, which is the lengthways measurement. And then whatever this is. And then I'm gonna take that 6 1/4 and chop it at 3 1/4. And so that will be our first tag base. Let's do another 3 1/4. There we go. And then we've got this skinny piece, which is just short of 2 inches and by 6 1/4. Well, yeah, duh. So let's cut that at 3 1/8. No, that's wrong. Right? No? 6 1/4. 3 1/8. Maybe it just looks weird the way I have it lined up. It looks like it's too, it's not going to be even, but I think, oh, yeah, that's what happens, Amber. Just gotta trust. I'm not the best measurer. This is something I know about myself. So things are never exactly quite right, and that is honestly fine with me. Most of the time, when it's very important, I measure extra carefully, and then sometimes it's still wrong. But all right, almost 8.5 means let's do almost 4.25. Boop, boop. All right, so I got these bits, and then that's a 3.25 that we want to cut to 6.25 to match our other bits of tag. There we go, and let's see what we've got. All right, I'm gonna grab my tag punch, my corner rounder punch, and where did I put, oh, this guy, because the tag notches here aren't quite the size I would like. And honestly, the first thing I'm gonna do is just trim off some of the end of this. Yeah, you'd think I'd use my trimmer for that. I did not. I think I got it more or less straight. All right, this one is gonna be a little tag. I'm gonna do it in the middle notch to start, since it's fairly small. Whoop, I like that. Cute little taggy tag. Let's do, there's a little bit of tissue hanging over the edge here. I'm just trimming off. It's easier to do from the back. You can see the overhang really clearly. And this is my notch I made for my larger tags. Okay. And then I just flip it upside down. And actually this is perfect because there's a tiny bit of tissue that still isn't stuck down there. Oh, I'm just gonna clip it right off. So now we have a nice big tag. I can do something on the back to make it a little bit more pleasant to write on, but in general, it's a pretty good base to start with. And now if I wanted to decorate more, and there are a lot of people who, when they mass make like this, they want to decorate more and basically have a fully finished tag. If you want to do something like that, you get out more stamps. I had these key and clock ones I was thinking about using before I decided, no, I really don't want to decorate these further and then limit where they're useful. But if you did want to, this is a great way to stamp now in your darkest color, to add ephemera to it, to punch a hole, add an eyelet, add some ribbon, all of those kinds of things. Those are the kinds of things I enjoy doing when I have decided to use the tag in a specific journal. That's the kind of decorating I look forward to and that I like to do at that stage. So that's why I stopped short of using a darker color on the board. And this is also where I'm gonna stop in terms of tag decoration, because I want to reserve for myself the ability to use these in a bunch of different places. Honestly, I'm already somewhat limited because some of my scraps had like purple in particular, and I went ahead and pulled that purple through with some of the stamping. So anywhere, like I'm probably never going to use this in a Christmas journal unless it's one that's more wintry and not red and green. Let's see, this is an end piece as well. Not as worried about that. I could do some trims on there, so I'm not going to worry about that. Put that notch away. Make another tag with the medium size. You'll notice I turned this over, and that's just because I have found that a lot of times when I stick this in from this way, let's see if I can do it. Yep. See, it's going through on the side, and I'll punch it without realizing. So when I do it this way, I can make sure I've got that corner where it's supposed to go. All right. I'm gonna do one of these as a tag. Oh, I'm gonna do it on the smallest and see if I like it. No. Do it on the medium. Center it up. Do it on the medium. There we go. And then I'm gonna corner around these two and just make them little journaling cards. So we're gonna do the medium. Corner, oh, that one did not cut well. Apparently, I still didn't line it up properly. There we go, that's better. There's that one. And then that one. And then sorry for the noise. Anyway, sweet little journaling cards, sweet little tags, all ready to be used when the time is right. And I'm working on a journal, and some of the ink is still not entirely dry because I did stamp it immediately before filming. So I have inky mucky hands. I'm not worried if a little bit of transference gets on the back there because I don't know what I'm doing with any of it yet. So I'll worry about the back if and when I need to worry about the back, because sometimes I'll use tags as pockets and do other things like that with them. So there's no real need to feel like we have to have that side done. This isn't a great space for me and the way I like to work right here. I hope you found that interesting. I really did like this approach when it was all said and done of layering those stickers onto a board and then layering that tissue over to pull it together and stamping. I'm really happy with that result. So the way that I've been working lately, it's a good chance that the next time you see me, we will be doing some other component make. But honestly, I'm not sure what I have planned yet for the next video, so you'll just have to stay tuned. If you enjoyed this, please give this video a thumbs up. And if you do want to see what comes next, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you get notified of my next video. Thanks.